Hey guys, this is DFD, aka Dark Frozen Depths, back with another Kamihime project video. Now, I originally wasn't going to do this video, but I have gotten a little bit better, so I'm able to record this. I'm still slightly recovering, but mainly it's just having my tooth pulled, so that's why I had to give it a few days just in case. But I'm fine now, just not perfect. But anyways, this event, some of you have probably already done some things in it or whatnot, but this is going to break it down a little bit more so you at least know what they go after and whatnot, because it's a little better than I give it credit for, at least for right now, because we have some stuff on the way that will actually help you out later, but this gives quite a bit of decent stuff to hold you off for right now. But mainly this is an advent event. Some of you should already know that by now, especially with weekly advents being a thing. And those are basically events where you have to do things on your own. Essentially, you want to be able to clear the highest difficulty you possibly can in order to get the most reward stuff. So it is recommended that you're clearing Ultimate at the very least, but you will want to be able to clear Ragnarok because, again, those drop the green orbs, which will give you the Dragonic Eye Shards, and those, with addition to weekly advents, you should be able to start stocking up on quite a few of those orbs. So it's not a problem really go after the Dragonic Eye Shards anymore, especially since we're going to have some very powerful weapons later on that need 50 eyes. So you're going to want to get as many of those as you can. On top of that, I would say, if you want to be honest, get every SSR thing you can get if you don't have anything stronger. You will still want the eidolons. And me personally, I would say still get the weapons anyway. Just hold on to them for later on because you may need them for fodder. You may need them to skill level some stuff. Who knows? But my suggestion is to get all the SSR stuff you can get, no matter how strong you are. I also suggest that you get all the gacha tickets, including the raid Kamihime ones. Reason being is because they still produce Ssr Weapons, and again, that's for the sole reason of skill leveling. So I would suggest clearing out all the gacha tickets. If you don't have those Kamihime, then you'll probably pull a new one. If they're not part of the epic quest, then they'll probably be in the raid Kamihime gacha tickets. It's just luck it's luck based on who you get, but it's still more stuff to use in order to level up your weapons, because big thing later on is the fact that things are going to shift a lot more towards guardian weapons, and I said before the 50 Dragonic Eye weapons, things will shift towards those a little bit more, but we'll still have other things that we'll be able to grind out and upgrade. So we're going to start needing a lot more skill experience, so you may want to stock up on different types of fodder if you can. Now, going further into fodder, you may or may not want to get the Ssr weapons from this as well. I would put that on a back burner because of the fact that you would want to get them after you gotten everything else. Everything else is still more important, like the gacha tickets, the SSR weapons, and the SSR eidolons. The soul points will be more important than that. The magic jewels definitely your books, in case, especially if you can't grind the Phantom Guardian right now, which is Och, who drops quite a few books if you really try. But the SR stuff is literally like the lowest priority in my opinion, along with the half elixirs. So there's that too. You could get the reinforcement stuff you want along with those because they're also low priority, but the reinforcement orbs quite low because you'll get a lot of those. I will go over what these SSR things do later on, but for right now I'm going into the stages themselves because this is actually a little bit tricky if you don't know what you're doing. First and foremost, if you use any healing abilities, you will get countered with a 3-turn burn that deals 3% of your match HP. And that's regardless of the difficulty. And the worst part about it is the fact that the attack that it is used to win that on you deals 10% of your HP as damage. So if you use any green abilities, you will see this happen. And to make it even worse, there's a second one where it will remove all your buffs. And it will deal damage to the entire team. That's if you use any yellow abilities. Or if its HP drops below half. And it is capable of using that one multiple times. But not forever like the recovery counter. So, if it is on beginner to expert, it will use the buff counter one time. If it is on ultimate, 2 times. If it is on Ragnarok, 3 times. But regardless, it should use it at half HP. Be very, very careful of that. Excuse me. Be very, very careful of that one, because that is also pretty dangerous. You're still taking damage and you're losing all your buffs. Right after you just cast them too. So, if you use yellow skills or green skills, make sure you are ready to take this fight out. Expert has 700,000 HP for the boss who does this. Ultimate has 1.5 million, and Ragnarok has 3 million. Now, both of these will not happen if its orbs are full, so if its charge turn is maxed, you can get away with it. But it still doesn't change the fact that it's going to do the buff removal when its HP is below half, so if you're not able to take it out pretty quick, then just wait until after the halfway point before you start using your buffs. But when it's in normal mode, it'll start hitting you randomly 3 times for damage when its orbs are full, and raging is going to do AoE. It's all fire, so if you're using water, you will take the least amount of damage. But if you're using wind, you're going to take the most. So it's recommended not to use wind, if you can help it. Now, due to the triggers, you have to do everything with timing. Wait for it to get full orbs before you try to heal, or if you try to buff yourself or anything like that. The cuts do count as buffs. They are under yellow skills. Well, it says orange on the wiki, but it's still the same thing. The only skills that are safe to use throughout the entire fight are blue and red. Blue is typically your debuffs, and red is typically your offensive attacks. But they may coincide with each other. Like, blue skills, some blue skills will cause damage over time debuffs, and then some red skills will also cause debuffs as well, or even buffs. Like, I remember there's red skills that cause buffs, so like Michael's red skill, which causes double attack on the entire party. You can get away with those. So those are the type of skills to use without any sort of hesitation or safety. Be careful about the green ones and the yellow ones, because those are the ones that have to be used when full orbs. Otherwise, you're going to get countered. Now, that said, use whatever souls help you out for the fight. They recommend John, who's pretty much the A-class version of Romulus. It's just the simple fact that you need to be able to time when to use the damage cuts if you're using that soul. Typically, you'll want a damage cut before a super attack comes up anyway, so if you're going to use it full orbs. However, I would personally save it for when you see the enemy's HP hit 50%. Because we have a percentage indicator beside the HP bars, we can actually tell when they're going to use these triggers now. So, if you know you're going to push it into 50% or less, that's the time to use that damage cut, because you'll at least take the damage and then it will cut the it will remove your buffs. So be very, very careful. Now, as for what you want to get from this stuff, again, like I said, the SSR stuff is very high priority. The books are high priority. The gacha tickets are high priority. The soul points and magic jewels also count as high priority, as well as the dragonic eye shards if you can get them. Now, what I would consider to be on the lower end of priority is definitely the half elixirs, because we can still get quite a lot of those. And usually through the gem gacha too. The Ssr weapons are low priority, but still grab those if you can after you've gotten everything else, because again, skill leveling fodder. The EXP spears you can skip, but if you feel like you need more of them, you can always get them every single day if I remember correctly, because they restock daily. But other than that, this event is more focused towards getting the SSR stuff and the gacha tickets. Definitely get the magic jewels, of course, because you want more pools or more slots. And then the draconic eye shards are always important, especially since we now have weekly advent. We don't have to worry about these green orbs anymore. We can get them for weekly advent if you're getting low. But anyways, what the SSR does. This one is actually quite strong for newer players. Not only does she give 40% fire elemental attack, she gets 10% in wind resistance. I said 20 because I saw this 20 up here for some reason. But it is 10% in wind resistance and 40% in fire elemental attack at all times. That's what happens when you set her as a main. She also gives a really good amount of attack power. It's over 2,000. It's 2,100 to be exact. And on top of that, when you summon her, she will cause heavy flame prison. This is the stronger version of damage over time, or DOT as it's nicknamed. If I remember correctly, this will deal 20,000, I think, per tick for 3 turns. And a lot of weaker players are not capable of dealing that much damage in one hit. So that's something to keep in mind. This makes it very easy to go cheese accessory quest rank 6 for Thunder if you're having trouble with that mid boss. This makes it very easy to get past that fight. Just summon this eidolon and it's over basically in 2 turns. But this eidolon is good whether you use her as a main or a sub. So definitely keep her. Definitely keep her. If you do happen to have stuff that like you don't have any spot for her, then you're going to still want her anyway to sell for eidolon orbs. The eidolon orb shop is going to get even better than it is already. And we still can get the Kaisers anyways. But later on it's going to get upgraded. So eidolon orbs are going to become even more important later on. So you're going to want them regardless. So whether you decide to keep her or not, get this eidolon. As for the Ssr weapons, again I mentioned the skill leveling thing because Ssr weapons do give a decent amount of skill EXP. But if you do plan on using them, they also have some pretty decent effects if you ask me. Because there is medium assault and small elaborate on one weapon. Pretty soon we will get a skill, like a weapon skill alteration on some effects, and elaborate is one of them. It becomes very, very good later. It's actually worth considering getting. So, that said, this weapon might actually help you out. However, around then we'll also be able to grind out final break limit weapons that will actually have better effects than this. But this could still be a very nice placeholder, especially since it has a lot of base attack. Now, as for the staff, this is large pride and small defender. It's essentially assault and defender in one weapon. This is one of the basic combinations of skills you're going to want to get. Pride defender or assault defender. That said, this can help you get a little bit more HP and still give a decent amount of attack power even if it can't final break. You will be keeping this weapon until you can get your hands on either better stuff like the guardian weapons or you get your final break weapons. So you're going to want this one too. Now the others are basic, they're just giving medium assault or medium defender, but you can still use them as skill leveling fodder. You can use all the weapons as skill leveling fodder if you want to. I have stuff that are stronger than this, so I don't need any of these, but I'm still going to get them as much as I possibly can. And since I'm well overpowered for this event, I shouldn't have any problems getting them all. But speaking of getting things, the event missions, now These are going to be the same, and I found out even when they change it, it will be a few changes, if that. But you generally want to clear expert and above without using an elixir. You want to clear ultimate and above, like expert and above expert for both missions actually. For SR on the lower or Kamihime on ultimate. You're going to want to pay attention to your rarities in order to get that. If you clear both expert and ultimate with R Kamihime, then you'll clear all the rarity missions. If you clear ultimate with light Kamihime, you will clear that mission. So if you use light or rarity, you'll clear all of that. Now later on, they will add more difficulties, and one of them, you may not, it's not necessarily mandatory, but it is more difficult, which will be Ragnarok Plus, which will mean Ragnarok will get added to this mission list. But you're still going to want to be able to clear a lot of stuff. So that said, these missions are a good testing ground to see how strong you actually are for a little bit later on. Because if you're able to clear ultimate with more Kamihime, you should be able to clear Ragnarok. At least in my opinion. And if you can do it off element with the light Kamihime, then your light team's definitely strong enough for that. So use this as a good testing ground. You can also use Weekly Advent as a good testing ground to see how good you are for a lot of this stuff, because you do want to grind out Ragnarok for that, because it will get the best drop rates for stuff. Ragnarok and Weekly Advent does not drop as much stuff as the normal Advent events. However, it is still recommended to be able to clear both of those. So that's something to keep in mind. Now, one last thing I need to mention about these weapons too is the fact that if you set them to your souls, they do give some decent effects when they burst. So that's something to consider, especially since later on it might actually be more useful for some souls to actually take an SSR weapon over a soul weapon, because of the effects that some of the stuff will give. Like, this staff actually does give a very powerful buff. However, not too many souls can use stabs, so that's something to know. But counterattack is quite a powerful buff, because as your HP drops, this will become a more powerful buff. So it's basically pride as a buff on top of pride as a weapon skill. So that's quite a lot of pride. And then this other one's going to buff your combo rate, which is very important as well, because you want to be able to pull off your burst as fast as possible. Too bad the burst oriented soul can't do this one. But anyways, that's all for this. More Kamihime project videos will definitely come soon, because we are about to transition to another event, which is going to be very important, and I'm going to cover a video on that one as well when it happens. There's also going to hopefully be a crossover event returning. I don't know that for sure. Can't confirm anything just yet. If it happens, you'll see a video on it. If it doesn't happen, then you won't see a video. And the last but not least, we are getting to the point where heroic difficulty is about to show up. It should be by the end of this month. That said, those of you that are looking for a challenge, you're about to get one. And oh boy, are you about to get one. When heroic difficulty shows up, Ragnarok Plus shows up for events as well. And that is something you're going to want to grind, which is Ragnarok Plus. That's going to get the most drop rates for all the stuff. So keep that in mind. But anyways, that's all for this. More is going to come soon. And if anybody's curious on heroic difficulty, again, I will cover that when it happens. But I could say this without a doubt. If you are not a veteran player with a very strong grid, at least 65,000, because that's like the lowest anybody's cleared it at. But at least 65,000 in power. They recommend 75,000 in power. And you should be advantage element because of the off element counter mechanic. But if you do not have all of that, you're probably not going to want to touch heroic. And the first heroic is going to be thunder element. So wind is going to be the one you want to use for that. So that's another reason to build up all elements. So keep that in mind. But anyways, that's all for this. More of this will come soon, and take care.